On seafloor like this, it's going to be difficult to get visual reference, but if that's the idea. The idea is to try to convince ourselves that we're actually overlapping our visual swaths. However you can best do it.
Some fishing line there. So what we're doing now is we're going to mow the lawn over to waypoint 2.
Up, back, and then we'll fill in.
Yep.
And then we'll spend time moving outward from that triangle.
Yep.
I don't know how best to do it, but that's as good a way to do it as any. We
I
might get
agree.
lucky early. Yeah, I'd rather go slower here, and make sure we're not missing things than You know, we don't have a lot of terrain to cover here, and we have literally the whole dive to do it. So let's be sure. It's an eel, yes?
Yep. So that was the plant life we saw on the last sweep. So we know. Something there in our water column. I'm not sure. Squid? Oh no, I think it's an. Oh yeah, you're right. I agree. Two of them. Um, yeah. Can we? I think video would like to watch them for a little while. Yeah.
Hi, this is Bill Shedd.
Uh huh. Hi, Bill.
Um, they appear to be mating, huh?
I would say so. They do appear to be mating. It's interesting how the bottom one you can
Sure, if
see
I'm allowed
it's.
to watch X-rated video on our system. How big are they?
How big are they? I think when the lasers were on, they are probably about a half a meter, so like 50 centimeters long.
Oh, okay. They look bigger.
Maybe they were a bit bigger. I'm trying to go from the memory of when the lasers were on. I could actually look back at the video in a moment here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've got a little bacterial. Now we're seeing a little bacterial activity to the right.
What I remember from last year's scatter on the multi-beam from the seafloor was that most of the strong backscatter response is up to the northwest and less so down here,
It looks like
which
bacteria
would.
to me because you can see there's
Well,
some
fair enough,
white
Bill.
ones and some
We'll
orange
keep an eye out for it.
patches
Mhm.
too.
We're going to spend a lot of time trying to completely visualize this triangle within these first three waypoints, and then the plan is to
Mhm.
move to the essentially to the east. But we'll once we do this, we'll probably sit and put our heads together and decide what to do. Yeah, see that looks like a slightly more burrowed area now. I've always been fascinated in the med. That was obvious. You know, you just see really real patchiness.
Some more plant detritus there on the right, and yeah, you're see how it's slightly hummocky around here
Right,
now.
right. and it was a lobster-looking organism, but with terrible claws and 2 yards long. It was one of these really, really early predators that must have been just voracious.
At long last, Bill, you're
I mean, we figured out that this. I mean, we've now seen more than one, so
right. 3 now, but yeah, I don't know what it is.
it's that's a bigger squid than I've heard about occurring in the Gulf of Mexico, but I don't read the squid literature, so it's
Some more white staining
yeah,
bacterial mat.
yeah. I got some more mats. They were much more common yesterday than they are today, so thus far.
Right.
And
Rhode Island Hub, this is EX video. Do you copy?
now, are those shells, or is that just staining? I guess
It
that's.
looks like there is staining, but there could be a shell buried there.
Can
I'm
we
not
get
too
a
sure.
Can we get a slight zoom on this, guys? We got time to do that.
Copy that. Did you just make your turn, Tyler? I did. Oh, okay.
If there was a shell, I would think it would be that thing on the right there, but it might not be.
Maybe not, but it's certainly higher backscatter there. I mean, that might be proximity of hard grounds nearer the seafloor. I don't see any shell though.
No, me
All right,
neither.
all right, gentlemen. Thank you. Yeah, we've got some. Looks like we've got some topography coming up at around 045 to Herc now.
Yeah, he said he was actually aware of it, so maybe have him double check it here in a couple minutes, see if it's back up.
Well, that's provocative looking. That hole.
Go ahead, Bridge. Copy that. Thank you.
Well, let's take a look at this, gentlemen. We got a little bit of a hole coming up here. I wouldn't call it a hole, maybe, but it's a depression.
We have about 25 meters left in our move. Okay, multiple turn. That makes 8 minutes left.
Bill, this is Tom at UNH. You were asking about the backscatter from the M302 that we collected on our cruise last fall.
Yes.
If you have a look at that backscatter and look where we are, there's a couple of small patches of higher intensity backscatter than what we see over much of the dome, and we're basically right on the edge of one of those patches right now. And as we move towards
Sure
waypoint
what
2
that
or
is.
waypoint
Give me a
3,
zoom on that,
Anemone?
we're right in
gentlemen,
the middle
please.
of them. So these patches
Looks
are
like an
1 meter
anemone, doesn't it?
across.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah, not nearly as much
Venus
backscatter
flytrap
as we
anemone.
saw up to the northwest, though,
Oh yeah.
if
There
I
you go.
remember correctly.
and
Well, I think the strength
something
of the
sticking out to
backscatter
the
is
side.
Those
It
look
looks
like
like a
hard.
tube.
It looks like a hard ground on which it's sitting, though.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's
So
smaller.
it's
It's not as big.
well. Let's take a pretty
Could
close
you
look at
send
this
that to
before
me?
we move on.
If I'm not mistaken,
Tom,
we
could
always see
you,
this kind of
email me
anemone
that?
on some kind of a hard ground,
Sure.
Well,
even
they-
a small
All
one
right.
like this.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
For about 15, 20 seconds, and then
All right.
we'll lose our search fighter.
I just want to make sure I'm not seeing bubbles escaping from this.
Right, and I think that's a tube worm tube, a vestimentiferan tube.
Yeah, it looks like a
Fuzzy
tube
stuff.
worm on the other side.
Coming off of it is hydroids, a little cnidarian that colonizes the tubes. Let's see.
But I'm not seeing any bubbles, so when you have to move on,
Full wipe out.
interesting looking organism. That's what they call it, a Venus flytrap anemone.
Yeah,
Anemone.
It does kind of look like a Venus flytrap, and it's pretty cool if you disturb it, how it looks
It
when
will
it
it will
closes.
it will close up.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
That's how it. I presume
Wow,
it's
well.
predating small fish and so on. It's literally closing.
I don't know that that's the case. I think it, like a lot of anemones, I don't think that it has to close to eat animals. There's some more significant staining up here. Some dark staining and
Yeah.
some white bacterial
Yeah,
mat around it.
certainly seeing more
And I
staining in this vicinity.
think a little carbonate rock right there in
Yeah,
front
we've
of
got
us
a
now.
small outcrop there. Can we zoom in on that, gentlemen? Have you got time to take a look?
Yeah, you can, at all these, you can stop and do a little pirouette.
This looks more like the terrain we were in yesterday with extensive bacterial staining and carbonate hard grounds. And in 2 of those locations, we did see bubbles escaping, so I want to take a closer look here. No encrusting. Well, we see, is that a small crab, though? It's a small crab in that one burrow there.
Yeah, I believe that's a squat lobster.
Yep.
Where? So right now we're not very far from waypoint
There we
2,
go.
is that right?
That's correct. Waypoint 2 is right here.
Yes, I see that. I just can't tell the distance scale here.
That looks like a, what is that
I
on
saw
the,
some
is that
tube
more
worms
plant?
down
Is that
there,
more plant?
and
We
yeah,
might
that's
want
more.
to take a closer look here, gentlemen. We might need to spend a little time here. Yeah, let's spend a little time here.
It's a bunch of Chaseon crabs
From the
around.
lower right of the screen, I think we're moving a little past it, maybe.
Yeah, we'll stabilize and get a close look here. We're going to want to take a 360 view of this. Take your time.
We have an easy stop here. Yeah, I've got this. Take it.
We're going to want to drop a marker here too, guys.
Yeah, I saw a couple bubbles there in the lower right.
Yeah, I think that's right. So we're going to,
Right.
when you get stable, we're going to want to drop a marker here.
Do we have a marker naming convention here?
Well, I don't know whether we want to serially number these seeps. We had 2 seeps numbered yesterday. We could call this seep 3. Well, but let's double check that we actually are seeing bubbles before we do that. But that's what I'd call it. But let's double check that we're seeing gas escape first.
Oh, and a plastic bottle. I didn't see that before.
Yeah.
So you were heading this way. West. We wanted to take a closer look at this, Biloxi.
Yes, we do. I want to take a pretty close look and look for bubbles. We can look at the biology while we're here. This is a crowd pleaser. Pretty systematic staining below the ledges of this carbonate hard ground, which is usually an indicator to me of escaping material. Certainly not seeing voluminous gas escape up into the water column from here, though. We might be seeing some.
Is there any area in particular we think?
You know, I think we want to get close to these ledge-like overhangs.
There's some bubbles on the lower right of your screen.
Yeah, it looks like there might be candidates at the lower right, so let's start there.
Oh, right there.
Yep.
You can see them.
Yeah, there we go. Seeing some bubbles now, so I didn't see exactly where they were coming.
On when you get a chance.
Yeah, let's put the lasers on, gentlemen.
Just about the center of your field now, right just above your right
Yep,
laser.
there you go. There are the bubbles coming out just from underneath the edge of that left-hand hard ground, the right edge, where the darkest staining is, right in the middle of your field right now. Looks like they might be coming from more than one location. Yeah, I'm seeing bubbles from at least one location and perhaps two. Well, let's call this seep 3, guys.
Hey, Jamie, if you could straddle the hole they're coming out of with the lasers, that might be helpful. We get a rough estimate of their size.
Yep. Yeah, when we stabilize, guys, Tom's going to want to put the lasers right up near where those bubbles are coming up. But when you get settled, we can do that.
And Tom, if you want really good imagery of this, the video guys can, what do? You speed up the video so that they take more frames per second so that they can actually get rounded bubbles.
That'd be great, Aaron, if that's possible.
Okay. I think it does look like 2 locations.
I see at least 2. But I think our pilots may be right. There may be distributed escape along that ledge on the left-hand side. There's one spot on the right side where bubbles are coming out to. Looks like there might be a good place for Herc to sit down here just near the old Pepsi bottle or whatever that is there. Good view from Sirius now, showing the topography of the outcrop overall. That's the idea if we can do it. Certainly some of those bubbles are on the order of a centimeter or 2 across, the big ones that come up.
There it is.
This was really great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's the idea. Want to spend enough time so that we can get a sense of rate and size of bubbles from the video when they get a chance to play it back. That's the idea. Yep. I don't. No, I don't. I don't think so. I mean, I think we want to take a really close, stable look at this. So I'd rather not have you hit the outcrop. But if you can sit down in front of it, one of the things we've got to assess here, if we return here, is the degree to which we can be stable with little herc near this site. So let's try it. We want to get a good look at the biology too. We've got squat lobsters there, tube worms. Going to get some decent video of what's occupying that small community in front. Certainly bubbles coming up from more than one location, though.
Right, I'm trying to decide if it's 2 or 3.
I think it's at least 2, and I think there's more than 2. I think it's coming, and I thought it was coming from under the rocks, but I think it's coming from that mounded area in front,
right.
for the most
Oh,
part.
yeah, I agree. So there's one that just kind of came up from that little, right where the right laser is right now.
And once you
And another.
once you sit down too, we're going to want to look at the seafloor and then pan the camera up a bit and look at those bubbles in the water column as well. Quite a lot, quite a number there.
More crabs.
Always fascinated by the proximity of various types of organisms in very, very tight proximity. You know, something's keeping them there, you know, feeding,
Yeah, food, I would imagine.
food. I mean, they're
And
remarkably, you know, they've got to be aware of each other at some level, but they're
well, that crab just seemed pretty surprised to run into another crab.
Right,
So
right.
it's kind of funny.
obviously it's pitch black, so
Right.
visual is not an issue here, but the other sensory organs are allowing
Sure.
them to know movement, vibration. They've got to be knowing what's around them to a degree. That's a very nice shot, guys. Very nice. Yeah, we want to look at them as they're escaping from the seafloor, and then when we're satisfied we've got that, we want to pan up a bit and see them in the water column. You know, but no encrusting bivalves here. You know, nothing at all. And Bob Carney said that. Bob Carney said that it wasn't always true that we were seeing that he was seeing encrusting organisms
Well,
associated with this gas escape.
Right, that's true, and that's been our experience thus far too.
But are those the
No.
cnidarians again? Are those little
Copepods.
copepods?
And we pretty much always see those whenever we zoom in on one of these bacterial mats.
Because they're living off the bacteria.
Yeah. Well, that is my assumption.
Right.
I don't know what that is right in the center of your screen.
Well, that's what I'm.
I don't know.
It's moving.
Is it?
We may not quite have the right spot. We might want to pan up a bit and to the left. Well, that's probably too far.
On the bottom of my screen, there's that looks like 4 or 5 like bulbous.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We're not sure what those are.
Those are the copepods.
Well, we're not sure.
Copepods are the things that are swimming around, the little tiny crustaceans.
No, the
Okay.
organisms at the seafloor, we're sure, we're not sure.
Right.
Okay.
All
right.
You want to pan left a little, guys?
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's clearly a disseminated release over this whole area of
Right.
staining. So
I'm not sure that all of these bubbles are even coming out in the same spot every time.
No,
Some of them seem to be a little more. Yeah. Yep. Well, I guess what I meant to say is that if you locate one spot, bubbles might not always come out from that same spot, too.
Yeah, I suggest we just get in here and be patient, and see what we get. There you go. Maybe tilt up just a little bit.
well, there's one. One came out right there. Yeah, so you can see at least 2 locations right in proximity to each other where gas is escaping. There's a third. There's a fourth in the background. So they got multiple locations over a half a square meter, which might make trying to do a grid measurement interesting. Roger that. Tom, what's your pleasure here?
I think we can move on. This is fantastic, but let's keep looking.
Okay. Have we got a tag here, SEEP 3, gentlemen?
Yes, it's Biloxi A002, second target, and then we'll get C3 in the description.
Great. Well, let's. Our collaborators are comfortable, so we can come off. And is there anything else in the biology you want to take a close look at? Do we want to zoom in on that community to the left? Yeah. Why don't we
Sure,
take a
let's
zoom
look
there
at that.
before we leave? That's a nice, diverse for our biodiversity member of the watch. That's a diverse.
Depends on what your measure of diverse
Well,
is.
we've got fish, we've got crabs, we've got squat lobsters, we've got worms. It's as diverse
4
as it
different
gets.
animals.
It's as diverse as it gets. This is one takes diversity where one finds it. That's a pretty photogenic group, though. We got red, we have blue, we have white, we have yellow.
Still wondering why they go to the trouble of being all those pretty colors.
So
Until
that we
get
can
there,
come and
nobody
take
can
pictures
see
of
their
them.
colors.
Well, I mean, really, I
Yeah,
don't
and take
think.
pictures, right?
I mean, I see basically 3 colors in the deep sea a lot: red, white, black. Why are they those colors? I think not for any real
We've
reason other
seen
than
some.
a side effect maybe of their metabolism or whatever it is that they're producing.
I was going to say.
Ian's got some pretty pink and purple.
Can you zoom in on that tube worm, the top one?
The
That's
one that's
right.
the one that's out. Yeah, there we go. That's great. One looks alive, clearly. The lower one, the upper one, it's
The
not so.
lower one.
Oh,
That one. that you're looking at right now?
The upper one. That one.
I was just
They're
curious
both
what's
alive,
going
aren't
on
they?
there.
That one may
Yeah,
not
they
be
are
alive.
both alive.
That one may not be alive. They are alive. That one's
I
alive
think
too.
it is. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on top of it, and I'm not really sure.
Kind of encrusting.
And can you go down and look at the other one too?
The other
I
one
think-
looks nice and fresh and pink. This one
Right.
looks like
And-
it's got some kind of gradue on it.
That's a technical term for.
Oh, it is. Yeah, very technical.
Yeah, let's zoom in on the lower one. That lower one is thriving. Oh,
Oh, you.
doesn't like us stirring up the sediment though.
And that one is lamellibranchia. You can see the lamellae on it. It's those, not the top pink part, but on the right side of it, there's a little thing that seems to have some lines going through it. And that's how you can identify that genus. And I think there's some kind of a worm back there. Scale worm, I think. Looks like. It's a little red guy in the back there on the tube. Okay, we can move on.
That's great, gentlemen. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Very nice.
Is that a male or a female, Aaron?
I have no idea. I think you have to tell. You have to take them out of their tubes and look
Completely.
in
Okay.
their
Okay.
vestimentum region.
Gotcha.
We are. So I make us more or less due west of 2, waypoint 2. Were you gonna move the ship again, or were you just gonna work your way over to 2 and then head to 3?
I think we should work this area a little more.
Fine.
Because the Sirius did try to swing 10 meters ahead when we stopped it.
Fine and dandy. Use your judgment.
If we continue west, we'll continue that wave you were on with Foundness. The rock with the coral is about 12 meters north. Okay. It's probably a scattering of rocks between target 1 and target 2. But yeah, I think it'd be good to head up until we get a visual on the rock with the... Okay. What is that, a Venus flytrap anemone? Or?
Yeah. So we're going back there to get a visual on it so that you can have a reference to go in a different direction.
Put into the chat room. Yeah. Okay, so that was on our left. That was when we were moving east. Okay.
Okay, so now we're back at this Venus flytrap anemone. This is our point of reference here.
Is that the same one?
Yep, and we were moving east from there, so now we're gonna
So we're gonna
go in a different direction. Is that right?
go east and up back.
Make sure we get down to the vehicle's 2 waypoint 2.
Where you just were, and then we'll continue.
These are the bubbles sitting there waiting to be exposed. Watch here. This one is coming from here. Just back it up slow.
Can you see that out there? If you see the left side of the screen, you see them being released.
Back was a sheep 3.
Yep.
So
Roger
now
that.
we're running it backwards.
Roger that.
See, there's a bubble there, and there's the other one. So that's what it looks like when it's waiting to be released. So that's what we maybe think those other things are in the more right side of the screen, too.
Yeah, so we've got
Pretty neat.
Yeah, so what we're wondering here is whether some of those are turned to solid hydrate, or just have thick hydrate shells on them over on the right, for example?
Oh, that's a good question. So you're wondering if they maybe have some kind of a hydrate shell, and that's why they're not released. I don't know if they're just kind of, there's enough tension there that they could just be released at any second, or, and yeah, that's a good question. What's stabilizing them there?
Nice instant replay, by the way. That's very...
Yeah, how cool is that?
Got a lot of staining here in front of us now. Oh, okay, great. I'm actually happy because it looked a little bit like seep through.
Yeah, there's just soda bottom. This is, you're passing south of it, which you would expect.
It's so encouraging that we can actually identify it again.
Yeah, no, that's exactly where we want to be, just off to the left of our building.
Oh boy, needle gunning. Looks like plant debris in the foreground there. Roger that. Something interesting here, gentlemen. Might want to slow down here and take a look. I see outcrop off to our left in the far field and another one in the foreground. So,
This is seep 3 again.
okay.
We passed south of it, and now I believe it's going to be...
Well
Okay.
then I stand corrected. Then we can
Right.
move on. Sorry.
How can we see the virtual target on the map? You know, seep 3.
Should be it's this guy. It's 02. It's dive marker 02, but it's seep 3. I think it was at the end. It was at the end of that grouping of hard grounds. We didn't look at everything, but I think the old bottle is the key, right? All right. Thank you.
So pilot, you're 90 degrees off of that will be 335 and 155. It's harder to remember than this. Bridge, this is our VNAV. Negative ship move 85 meters, 85, bearing 065 degrees at 0.1 knots. Copy that. How did that 45?
There, can we have a closer look at that white map?
Well, actually, where's that 60 most of the time?
Can we pan right, gentlemen, and take a look at the? Now, are we again looking at 3? We're looking at the same seep, just making sure that we're not missing anything. Okay. Roger that. Well, you know, some more plant debris there on the right. Seems to be relatively consistent plant debris. You know, it was viewed as perhaps hyacinth yesterday, and haven't seen a lot of diversity in the plant debris. Yep, yep, same animal. And got a little topography coming up here. Yeah, can we take a closer look at that, please? It's a hard ground. Yeah, just pan right. Just give me a little more of a view. Yeah, that's fine. Let's stay as long as we can, and just pan me right. Okay, gentlemen, that's what we needed. Thank you. Yep. Up, up on the left here. Whatever's operationally best for you. But I don't want to. I want to come back. Yeah, because it looks like a pretty big circular depression, so I'm going to want to take a pretty close look at it. Roger. Great. Well, we're planning on doing a pretty good look around there anyway, so. Yeah, it looks like scattered hard grounds in a depression, but I'm actually curious about what causes the depression. It's pretty big, so we're going to want to do a little bit of a survey around the edge and then look at the bottom as well. Might be a collapse feature again, a little bit like what we saw yesterday. Not as spectacular, perhaps, but You might see evidence for hydrates along the edge. Hard to know until we take a look.
Center of the screen. Okay, so is it the thing that's now in the center of the screen, Tom?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bridge now. Hey, can we have a ship move 25 meters, bearing 270 at 0.1 knots? Average grab at 50.
Bob Carney.
Yeah, I'm just losing my mind.
Yeah, Bob Carney says this probably is a burrow surrounded by reduced sediments. So that's the darker part, and then the lighter part being the oxidized sediment. Looks like it. Okay.
It was that looked like
Yeah,
one of
that's
your
good.
bubbles stuck to the bottom right down there, didn't it?
I missed that,
Lower
sorry.
right from that hole.
Turn and just head straight back to Sirius.
No,
Couple light targets.
I missed seeing it. It was. Bob Carney.
Yeah, I'm just losing my mind.
Yeah, Bob Carney says this probably is a burrow surrounded by reduced sediments. So that's the darker part, and then the lighter part being the oxidized sediment. Looks like it. Okay.
It was that looked like
Yeah,
one of
that's
your
good.
bubbles stuck to the bottom right down there, didn't it?
I missed that,
Lower
sorry.
right from that hole.
Turn and just head straight back to Sirius.
No,
Couple light targets.
I missed seeing it. It was.
Hey, we're exploring, right?
Yeah, we are exploring
We
it.
are exploring.
I'm not sorry that we looked at the burrow. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that geologists are also interested in looking at burrows.
Geologists
not
are
only
interested.
biologists.
It's absolutely correct. You're absolutely right.
We like the burrows that have been infilled by carbonate. That
Right.
way you can
Right.
date the.
That's it. That's it. Once they become rocks, they become interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then they become our property.
Right, that's exactly right. Yeah, where we've got outcrops of hard grounds around the rim of this feature is in my view, our best shot for looking at gas escape is around the rim. So I really want to take a kind of a census of the rim first, then look down at the base, at the center of the depression. Look for outcrops of perhaps hydrate. But that's the idea here. Well, it's irregular depression. I wouldn't call it circular, but
Do you have a way of telling whether a depression is caused by some collapse underneath or some kind of blowout from expulsion of methane or?
if it looks like this, it's harder. The one yesterday was clearly in part collapse
Right.
because part of the roof pendant, the roof was still there.
Yep.
Here, it's not so clear. You know, it's the difference between caves and sinkholes. You know, once a
Right.
cave becomes a sinkhole, then it's hard to know whether it was a cave before. That's pretty provocative looking feature, though.
It from the seismic, I'm looking at it right now on the 3D, and it doesn't appear that it would be a collapse collapsed due to salt withdrawal or anything like that.
Okay. All right.
Salt's way down.
Okay.
Way deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can tell that by
So
the
it's-
depth
it's
of the
more
salt
likely-
on the seismic.
Yeah, the salt is
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to tell where the where the top of the salt is from the
a
seismic.
couple
Sometimes,
thousand feet below us.
sometimes not so. That's good though. Thank you. But Bill's right. I mean, you can also have hydrate layers atop the dome that then exsolve and that can create part of the collapse. And we saw hydrate in that one yesterday, so that's a pretty clear indication that.
Hmm. We do see subsurface indications of the base of hydrate stability here.
Uh-huh. Okay, so let's see. Unlock.
All right, so the video has removed the stereo screen and replaced it with the EK60 on the quad. And so, yeah, so the nav is still then in the lower left side of the quad, right?
Should be, yeah.
Yes, we do. We do see it. Well, we've mapped, 150 something in the Gulf of Mexico to date, and this is one of them.
Right.
This area does have what appears to be a
That's
BSR
another
in the area underneath.
Uh-huh.
So we're seeing the transition from, and it's usually a pretty sharp transition from hydrate saturated sediments into non-hydrate saturated sediments.
Well, certainly if we're seeing hydrate at the surface the way we did yesterday, got a pretty thick
Yeah, well, it
cap
makes
of,
sense that we would see a base somewhere.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
About 60 meters.
Oh, there
Wow.
you go.
So now at the edge of a big slope, some rocks in it. Lots of bacterial mats around it.
Well, Tom tells us that there is gas in the water column here, so we want to give this a look.
Tom, is it possible that the bubbles are below our eyes' resolution or the video's resolution? You know, I keep harping back to the images Larry sent when I was over in BP's office of a mussel bed in Indonesia where blue light clearly showed very active pluming, whereas the white light from the ROV did not.
Yeah, I remember seeing that video too, and I don't actually know about that. I would say that based on the evidence that we have here and other places on the Biloxi Dome, we're looking at bubble
Yeah, it looks
sizes
like there's
that
some
are
tube worms in that
somewhere
rock.
between 1 and
And
10
under it.
millimeters.
Yeah, we
Possibly. I think
might want to
that
take a look
is
at that
roughly in line with
carbonate
what we
hard
saw
ground
yesterday.
outcrop that
That's
just
also
came out of the
roughly
field
in
of
line
view
with what we probably
in the
saw
foreground.
at the Pascagoula Dome last Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So we have seen bubbles of that size.
Okay.
Can't say
Well,
what
well, I was wondering about bubbles that are maybe giving us a response on the EM302 or the EK60
That's it.
that are below that size, and that maybe we're not seeing. You know, we're not always seeing bubbles of the what you said 1 to 10
You saw
millimeters.
tube worms on the.
Possibly.
and
I
radius.
think so.
Yeah.
Under it.
Yeah, it's hard to say, Bill. I think that one of the reasons we're here
Or at
looking
least
is to
one.
figure out what the size distribution of the bubbles that we're seeing actually is.
However,
got a
you
squat
know-
lobster there.
I don't know if that's a vestimentiferen tube worm. There's a tube.
Is that a bivalve shell to the left, though? That looks like a mussel shell to the left. Can you pan left and zoom in on
It
that?
does look like a shell. It might be dead, though.
Yeah, I think you're
Yeah.
right. I think you're right.
Yeah, this kind of tube worm, quote unquote, is a different polychaete worm. So you
Right.
can see the two tentacles.
Then, by all means. Does
Some
look-
other little polyps there.
does look-
And actually, you know, I think maybe it is a worm because you can see both ends of it now.
Amazing. You zoom in on these small features, and you're amazed at the diversity of biology that's encrusting whatever it is. It looks like it may be a bivalve shell.
I think it is a shell. Probably a mussel shell, I would guess. It's hard to say
but
because you can't see.
you've
all
got
of
staining
it,
around it, so it's you couldn't prove it's not alive.
Usually, they're not gaping like that if they're alive.
Really?
So, I think rather than being a closed shell, I think that it's two valves that are open. That's what it looks like to me.
Yep. Well,
Oh, wait.
I defer. To
That, again, that's that same polychaete that has those two tentacles coming out of that
it's the
almost transparent
It's the Edison
tube.
polychaete because it looks like the filament in an incandescent bulb.
This is the person I hung out with the most.
Did you? Yeah.
They had a lot of
So Bob says the mussel is dead or very, very sick. One.
Mussel is dead or very sick. Okay, gentlemen.
Oh.
Let us continue to our primary objective, which is survey.
Most of them were rock climbers.
Right. So we do want to again take.
The fishermen are in shallower water, probably.
Yeah.
The
Well,
ones that
that's
throw the beer cans over.
Yeah, that's it. I guess there's a lot of
Right.
traffic in the Gulf offshore, though.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, fishermen in particular tend to fish in shallower water than this. It's we're at about 1,400 meters.
1,400 meters. Yep. Yeah, that's the idea, gentlemen. I just want to do a bit of a census of the lip of this feature. Some bacterial staining, so we've got some seepage here probably. Well, then if that's so, then we can continue to do our survey business. Yeah, I reiterate that the EK60 shows that we've got gas in the water column in this vicinity, so we are looking for the odd bubble stream. So let's be on the lookout for it. But this is a much more hummocky area, and maybe Bill's right. There's hydrate dissolution happening at depth, and you're getting intermittent collapse. And with collapse, you're getting dissociation of the hydrate and methane seeping up into the sediments above, and that's what's supporting this bacterial growth. Right. No, it's good. It's good. And the water is all of a sudden startlingly clear, which is great.
Yeah, is it possible that it could be hydrate?
It's possible. It's just usually when I see white and orange ones together, it seems like bacteria. And then this, looks fuzzy like bacteria would, little bacterial filaments. They have this fuzzy kind of appearance. And I would expect hydrates to look less fuzzy and more, I don't know, minerally, more like ice, I guess.
Well, it might be, we might be making the assumption that all hydrate looks like big mounds with worms crawling around it, all over it.
Well, that's certainly
Maybe
what
this
it
is
turned
a
out to be
different-
yesterday. Not to be yesterday.
Well, yeah, I don't.
Oh, yeah,
It's not
yeah.
necessarily that I think that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and those are the obvious ones. Those are the easy ones to pick out.
I don't know that
It
I'd
might
see.
be
I think
that,
those are bacteria.
I don't
there.
think you'd see
form-
hydrate forming those pointy, tufted like tufty, as my colleague says.
Yes.
I guess when you zoom in,
Yeah,
it's easier
they-
to see that.
But I agree with you that no, we can't just assume that everything that's white on the seafloor is bacteria necessarily.
Well, particularly in this part of the
Making
world.
an educated guess, because I mean it can be methane hydrate, right? And can it also be barite crust?
Could be.
Barite, I was going to
Could
say,
be.
could be
Could
barite.
be. Could be barite. Yep.
I mean, when we see mussels and they have kind of a white film on them, we've brought those up before. We don't think that it's bacteria. I don't know if we've ever really determined what it is, but it doesn't. It's not slimy and filamentous like bacteria would
Yeah,
be.
let's
So we
take
think
a-
it's some kind of
Let me just
precipitate.
take a quick look at this rock right in front of us. That's the one.
And Bob says mats usually are on reduced gray or even black sediments, which this is what we've seen earlier, and that this is oxidized brown mud.
Yeah, interesting holes in that though. I mean, that looks.
Yeah.
Those look like old seep rocks, that have had. Those are old bubble escape structures. We saw those in Israel, and a lot of just honeycombed with circular holes. That's really provocative looking. That rock. That looks like rock through which gas has at times escaped. I'm not seeing any gas there now, but
A shell in the upper center, as you said.
is it a branch? Or is it a polychaete of some kind? Is it a worm
Oh,
of some kind?
it's twisted, so it looks like cable to me, actually.
Oh, it is. It's man-made. All right. Well, that's so much for that. That's what that is. But see that circular depression underneath it? That's the discoloration. That to me is a candidate for an escape structure of some kind. But I'm not seeing any bubbles. Okay, gents. Yeah, it's definitely wire, huh?
Mm-hmm.
On the wire itself. I
I'm
think it's a clamp of some kind.
wondering what that weird
No.
solid.
Well, let's zoom in on it again, guys. Sorry. Let's zoom in on the wire. Dave thinks he sees something.
That globby.
Pan right. See that right on the wire itself.
Good question.
Well,
So he asked if it's
it looks-
biology
it looks
or
like-
cloth.
it looks- Well, I don't know. I can't answer.
I say biology, like a sponge
It
or
looks
something.
like biology to me. But it's a good call. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. That's what I call it, yeah. I've seen sponges that look like that before. Hmm. And Bob said, no, spicules that form kind of a
Yeah, it's
mesh-looking
kind of-
structure.
It can be a silica skeleton, right?
Right.
Saw some beautiful glass
Is that a
sponges.
bone right there, or some more casts?
Saw some beautiful glass sponges in the Mediterranean.
That's cool. We don't, at least I have never seen any really spectacular sponges
Oh.
down here on the seafloor.
These were spectacular mushroom-type sponges in the Western Med at depths of 800 to 1,100 meters. Amazing. I can show you some pictures. Unbelievable.
Looks steep there.
Yeah. Yep. Well, again, it resembles collapse. This looks like collapse. I'm willing to take Bill's input that it's associated with hydrate exsolution and collapse rather than salt. not having seen the seismic, but it certainly
It's a mussel.
it certainly looks like collapse.
Shell there.
Yeah.
Wow. It's an interesting looking precipice here. Yeah, most of the sponges that I've seen on carbonates, they just kind of crust on there. Oh, some bubbles off on the up
Oh, there
left.
we go. There we go.
So left of that tiny rock right there. And look just on the other side of that rock. Must be a coil right wrong.
Yeah, let's take a close look.
That might be a, well, it's a tube worm of some kind in our foreground. I don't know yet if it's a vestment.
There's another bubble. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, let's take a let's take a closer look though, guys.
I think it's faster than one a minute, maybe one every 20 or 30 seconds or something. Not very fast.
Yep, there's another one. Yep. From the left side, there.
About 20 to 25 seconds. I'll type that in there.
Yeah, there's another pretty good sized bubbles too, I must say.
Yeah,
Those
they
are-
do
those
look
are-
pretty big.
Those are easy to see. Those,
Yeah, he's coming up and out a little
Yeah.
bit so he doesn't stir up the sediment around here.
fast. And again, bubble escape rates like we're seeing now, very low rates, but rocks that suggested that the rates occasionally had been much higher. And I think some of the porosity of these rocks is probably related to former gas escape.
I think there's some bubbles. Maybe not. I was going to say maybe bubbles coming out. Are those oil bubbles right there in front of the screen?
I think it's disturbance from
Just,
the,
yeah,
from
stuff from
Herc.
us moving
I think it's stuff
around.
from Herc, yeah. Or little amphipods, or there's some things just swimming around in front of us too. There's another bubble there. Yeah, we want to get to a point where we can zoom in and
I was
get.
going to say these rocks are very light colored.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Slab,
We saw
almost white.
predominantly light-colored hard grounds yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want to be able to zoom in and get enough of a video for long enough to get a real rate on these bubbles.
Yeah, there's another one.
Well, it's been, that should be the third target we've identified, and it probably, we can call it SEEP 4. Last one was SEEP 3, the one near waypoint 2.
So you can, John had just pointed out that you can see the bubbles coming up in Sirius's camera too. Just relaying this.
I don't have a problem if you want to set down in front of this to steady up. As long as we can do it gently and
When you get a chance, would it be possible to turn the lasers on as well?
yeah, let's get the lasers on, guys, please. Thank you. those are good-sized bubbles. Yeah, so we're gonna want to take a good long video look at this.
Yeah, Bob had pointed out earlier that there's some hydrate there, and yes, some bubbles trapped under there, and it looks like those bubbles are kind of solid, like the ones that we saw earlier. That might be the beginning of, you know, gas trapped in kind of a crust.
Tom, do you want those lasers back on again? Oh, they are? I can't. Oh, they're just out of the zoom. Okay, sorry. So you think that's hydrate, that corrugated surface on the left? It looks a little bit like it, I guess. There you go, nice. Very
Only
nice.
because I saw some other hydrate, what I'm pretty sure is hydrate,
it's hard to
way over on the left.
It's hard to know if it's hard. I don't know. I don't know what it would. Yeah, I was going to
Yeah,
say.
like here. Yeah. But you know what I meant.
Hi, Aaron. Are we capturing video at the same frame rate that we used before when you played those?
Are we capturing at 20 frames a second, or are we going faster than that?
What does that mean? Yes. As fast or faster than before.
There we go.
As a shutter speed, yes.
Yeah, we might want to come back out a little bit. We might be in a little bit too tight now.
And so what
Yeah, somewhere like that maybe. It'll give us a little bit better frame of reference.
So what I'm looking at here again in slow motion, Tom, is the bubbles coming out, and it looks like it's kind of building a tube as it's coming out, like we saw before.
That is a fairly common form that hydrate will take. It's in the form of a tube.
Oh, okay.
Ian McDonald saw tubes that were oil-stained hydrate tubes. They look like very tall, skinny cones. I say tall, just probably centimeters.
Right. These are not even centimeters tall. I'm pretty sure.
And then oil bubbles would be coming out the center of those tubes. But I see exactly. There is the one right there.
Right. And then
the center of my picture.
Yeah. Okay, so this is. Many other people have seen this before, but I haven't, I guess. So we had to kind of work it all out for ourselves instead of someone. Where were you earlier, Bill? Oh, yes, we've seen these all the time.
What's that?
Oh, I was saying that earlier we were kind of looking at this really slow video and kind of deducing this for ourselves. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, the rate there was 30 seconds between bubbles.
I think it's a worm. And there was some kind of a polychaete worm down there, too. Anyway, so what I was saying, though, Bill, is that, earlier when we were looking at bubbles escaping over this more diffuse area, we saw some of those little structures, and I didn't at first know what they were until we looked at the really slow video and saw that they kind of resembled some of the bubbles as they were coming out.
Gotcha. Yeah,
so it took us a while to work it all out, I guess. That's okay. And I think that there are some more of those methane ice worms on that methane over to the right, or to the left. I see their little feelers sticking out.
Okay, let's pan left and zoom in on those if we can.
Oh, no. We would like you to pan over to the left and zoom in there on the dark part that looks like a yellow methane hydrate, because we think some of those worms are there. Yeah.
Yeah, that certainly looks like the hydrate we had.
Yep, that looks like the
yesterday.
worms
That's,
too.
yeah, that's hydrate, and those are the ice worms. So we've got. Very nice.
Cool. Really just wanted to confirm that.
It's simply amazing that they are able to colonize opportunistically like that. That's great. Okay, gentlemen.
Yes.
Yep, we are.
We are happy with that.
And I'm happy generally. Tom, anything else you need to do here?
Hi, Jamie. This is Kevin. Tom's out of the room at the moment, but I think we can move on.
Yeah, I think we can move on, gentlemen. We've got about, a little over 2 hours left. I want to be sure we get from 3 back to 1 and then fill in any gaps in this triangle that we've. Yeah, a lot of topography here. Big bubble, big bubbles. Big bubble there.
I think I see some more hydrates there too.
Let's isolate the bubbles first.
Okay, I'm just observing.
Yeah, there's certainly more hydrate outcrop. Yep, but I saw a pretty good large bubble. But that brown hydrate might be our smoking gun for bubble escape. There's another one there. Yeah.
Yeah, That's true. As video is saying there, it's probably harder to see these bubbles against this lighter sediment background, because when we saw them before, they were just against the dark blue of the water.
There's bubble on the left, though. It might be that larger depression to the lower left, that larger hole. That would be my guess, or the other depression below, or the other hole crevice below it. That's clearly hydrate to the upper right, though. Those brown ledges are hydrate. Still looking for a really fast bubble stream. Haven't seemed to see that yet. Yeah, yep, yep. Right. Yeah, maybe a tube worm there, so. Well, you may have gotten coalescence
on
of.
the left side of the screen?
I think most of what we're seeing outcropping is hydrate. I think that big block on the left is hydrate. Too bad we can't get a big hunk of it and bring it up. It fizzes on the surface and you can light it. I've lit a cigar with
Put it in
hydrate.
your drinks at dinner time.
I've lit a cigar with hydrate on deck. Well, it's it's the way it works, though. Sometimes you got to take what you can get. Yeah, if we can.
Who said they were jealous?
That's Jeff. He's a fellow cigar smoker. Fellow cigar smoker. Hydrate. There's not much. There's not much smell if you let the hydrate degas on the deck without lighting it. But if you light it, you're getting CO2 and.
Well, methane is a really small symmetrical molecule, so it's pretty biologically inactive, right? So that's why we can't really smell it.
Yeah, it's not a. Of course, there isn't a hydrate around that is all methane, though.
True, because there's sulfide trapped in there too, right?
Well, and there's higher chain.
And other hydrocarbons,
yeah,
right?
Right. I'm sure this is a complicated mix here. It's not just methane.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's really three types of hydrate: type 1, type 2, and what they call type H, and it's all dependent on the size of the molecules.
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, type 1, the cage is very small, only accommodates 1 methane and 5 waters, whereas a type 2, which is ethane,
I'd like to get a little
propane.
closer zoom on where that gas is coming out if we can. I'm still feeling I'm a little far away.
But basically, it's finding these, and if you come down to the south, I got more done than I thought, or maybe somebody else can listen.
Yeah. So we can see some bubbles. Those aren't the large ones, really, that we saw before.
Yeah, one of the biggest ones is the one we saw initially when we were headed by.
I think there might be some down here that was way down to the south.
But the rate's too low for what we want to do anyway, so it's there's one right there.
Oh, I think 2 spots.
Yeah, at least 2, yeah, from under that hydrate lip there.
Yep.
Yep.
Check these out.
But that doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is a collapse area, so the pumping's going to be very, very complicated. And as that hydrate dissociates, you're going to get bubbles just emanating from every little crack and crevice, but slowly.
It's neat how you see these tubes coming out. They kind of remind me of tree roots or
Right.
something in an area that's eroded away like
Yeah, a
this.
soil horizon that, in a collapse on a cliff, in a cliff face.
Here, down here, looks like some of these might need to be.
Jamie and Aaron, there was a thought here that maybe the larger bubbles were over to the right, but
Well, we just saw a pretty big one escape right in front of us, though, Tom.
yeah, you're right. I just saw that.
I don't know whether we're getting coalescence of smaller bubbles occasionally into a bigger one in the water column.
Yeah,
We just haven't got enough statistics here to.
we just visited two of these with the Okeanos. Oh yeah, you want to put.
Yeah, there's another one. There's clearly in that ledge right in front of us, we've got at least escape from 2 locations. Get a little more light in there.
Oh yeah, it's a little worm, or yeah.
Yeah, is it okay? Well, that's not where the gas is coming from. Gas is coming from a little lower.
Jamie, do you have your lasers on?
Yeah, can we get the lasers back on, guys? Sorry. But the trouble is when we zoom in, Tom, you lose the lasers.
Yeah. Yep. I get that. When we zoom out, it'll be good to have them.
Yeah, there's a pretty big bubble that I could see the shadow just in the upper part of the field. Yeah, that's a good view there, guys, if you can hold that for a... That's all right. Yeah, see there's a bubble that came right from the sediment surface there. Yeah, see, it's actually coming.
Yeah, I think it's coming out underneath that
Yeah,
hydrate, but then out of the sediment there.
right. It's just coming through the sediment. Yeah, see, just to the right of where the hydrate outcrops. Right, right. There it is. You can see it forming. Then it pops out. There it is. You can see the holes. You zoom right in right there, you could nail it. There it is. There it is. There it is right there.
Cool.
Beautiful. Fantastic. It's like somebody blowing bubbles with bubble gum.
Man, it takes forever.
And look
at
the surface tension on that bubble before it lets go. That's pretty impressive. That's great. That's great. It's about once every 10 seconds or so.
Now, acoustically, we've seen evidence that the seat that's in this location may have an oil coating on it because we see bubbles rising up past where we normally see it.
Well, that could explain the high surface tension on these bubbles before they let go. There may be a little oil associated with them. I am. I thought that's a great shot. Excellent. That's what we wanted. What do you think, Tom? Shall we move on?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's keep looking.
That's good. Let's keep going, guys. I'm sorry. What? Roll
We do
tape.
have a small episodic slick in this area.
Okay, Bill. That's
on the sea surface. Wait.
good up here. But I don't know that icy substrate stuff.
Mm-hmm. Some more methane ice there.
Yep.
And so are we looking still for those giant bubbles we saw, or do we think that
No,
those
I
were
think
just
we're
the same ones, but kind of coalesced maybe?
hard to know.
Yeah.
But we're not going to stay any more time here.
Okay.
We're going to move.
Lots of little pits with methane ice in them.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, take a pressure core in this stuff.
Right.
Is the pressure core something that's a bit more powerful than just a push core?
Yes. It's a
No,
hydraulic.
what they actually, it would be, the equivalent of a piston core, which is a gravity core that drops down much deeper.
Yep.
A push core is like,
Wow.
a meter.
But these are shot cores.
And
What's this
these
stuff
are,
coming out of here?
well, the giant piston core is
Smoke.
70 meters long.
But on the drill ship, we've got something called a hydraulic piston core, which actually shoots pistons into the under.
Does anybody have a hypothesis as to what this smoke is coming out of here? Well, I don't see it right now, but oh, there it is. Is it? I don't know if it's biological or if it's this hydrate dissolving or what, or something else dissolving. Certainly, those are, again, copepods swimming around. They're just little tiny crustaceans. We seem to see those all over the place every time we zoom in on the seafloor.
I think it's hydrate lining the.
Yeah, I think so too. But then there's some light stuff that's wafting out and looks like a smoke stream almost.
Well, maybe something's excavating in there. It's. Very nice view from Sirius too. Always nice to. I don't know if I'm quite ready to believe that.
Yeah, copepods, the really little tiny ones, yeah. Amphipods, you can kind of more actually see what they look like instead of just being little white dots. Oh yeah, easy enough. I mean, they're little tiny crustaceans, both of them.
Yeah, somebody's in there in an easy chair blowing smoke rings. No, it's a grandfather ice worm and his family.
I was going to say, he's a biggie.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but we're happy with it.
Yeah, we're good. We can go. We can go. Time's a wasting. We got a little time. We got a little space to cover here. Exploration up to a point, and then we must survey.
Bob Carney suggests perhaps ice worms spawning. Maybe we're seeing that happen.
There we go. Only Bob Carney would know that. I'm not privy to that. It seems as though that every biology we see is in the process of reproducing.
So this would be a small ice cave excavated by ice worms. No, seriously.
Yeah. I mean,
there's different ways to make holes, and animals are real good at it.
Right, and certainly.
Where are you seeing it? Where are you seeing it? Off to the left of Sirius. I mean, well, let's take a look. It's about 20 meters. 20 meters out. About 8 meters out. About 8 meters out.
Here's another one of them. the caves.
Yeah.
Now, are we seeing a lot of bubbles there, or is it? Yeah, we.
There was a nice bubble coming out right there, a big one, solitary.
We got a big
Or
big
thing.
set of echoes on the Sirius sector scanning sonar though that we're going to investigate with Little Herc.
We weren't looking for coral.
No self-respecting coral would be caught dead in these places.
Sometimes you find coral when you're not looking for it, but
Mostly you're looking for it.
mostly we'd be targeting really places with lots of carbonate. And actually, we don't find corals around where there's very active seepage. So
The corals seem to like a real nice clean substrate.
yeah.
And the backscatter from last fall's multi-beam that Tom sent, you can see the area up to the northwest that had all the impacted corals, as opposed to what we're seeing here, which, there's a lack of corals.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that's absolutely right. There's your wire. There's your wire with the incrustations on it. Saw that before.
So this is a rerun, huh?
We've been over some of this ground before, yes.
Oh, yeah, there's your wire. See it?
Yeah, the idea here, gents, is to move back and forth with Herc and try to overlap your visual fields side to side. So we want to try to establish a 30 to 40 meter wide survey mode. Sirius more or less moving up the waypoint line, but Herc moving side to side and not having the swaths be wider than half the visual field on each side. So we're
Right.
covering all the ground.
They were moving ahead by about 5 meters on every swath.
Well, that was the idea. The idea was to check yourself. Not even the biology is respectable enough here. They just have decided that it's just too boring to actually live here. Well, makes you wonder about people who live on abyssal plains, where it's just ridiculously flat. Just
People who live on abyssal plains?
people, organisms. I don't know any people that live on abyssal plains. What's that? Gee, it is cheap real estate. Oh, here you go. Now we saw this earlier. This looks like this either resting trace or big burrow or something. I saw this earlier today. It's an interesting looking structure there. Or it's an ROV mark of some kind. Or a skid mark or
The way that it's shaped makes me think it's a burrow, just because it seems to have a mound on one side and then more of a trail out on the other side.
It's a big feature though.
I've seen isopods coming in and out of something that looked like that before.
Really? There you go. Nice crab.
Looks like some bacterial mat, yeah, right in front of us.
Yeah,
some carbonate there
looks like
too.
a big mound, like we saw the hydrate and ice worms in yesterday. We want to slow down. Yeah, we got bubbles. We got bubbles here. Got good bubbles here.
Nice. I like that.
Is it seep 4? Ah, it must be seep 4. You're right. But look at all the bubbles. What did, we never saw that many bubbles when we were here last time. What is it? What did we scare it or something, and then it slows down when we? This is seep 4 that you're looking at now, guys. Yeah, I think we need to take a closer look at this because I'm not sure. I'm showing Herc northwest of what we were calling seep 4. But it's within the scatter, maybe. I don't know. But let's take a look. The rate at which bubbles are escaping is a lot higher than what we were calling seep 4 earlier.
As a reminder, was seep 4 the one that where we saw
the bubbles expanded and let go? They were letting go about every 10 or 15 seconds, and this is a lot faster than that.
Right. So they were coming out of a more diffuse area. So it's possible that we're seeing all the bubbles from all of those sources, but we can just see them higher up against the darker background.
I don't think so. I think it's a different.
You don't
vent.
think so?
I think it's a different vent. And I think we're northwest of seep 4.
Can we get the lasers, please?
Boy, you are a skeptic.
Thank you.
If as we get closer, the rate goes down, I'll believe you. Because this is how we started. We saw a couple of big bubbles last time we were here. I just that maybe it's just a time varying rate of decay of this stuff. And an hour ago, we were seeing a low rate, but that's a higher bubble escape rate than we saw earlier. Well, I'm just thinking about. I'm not so much how it looked. It was the rate of escape of bubbles. This bubble stream was a lot more
Right.
voluminous than the other one.
The one that we were looking at before was the one that was coming out from under a ledge, and it seemed to actually be coming out of that tube, like it was forming that tube.
But it was coming
As
out
it
at
was coming
one
out.
bubble every
And
10
yeah.
to 20 seconds.
Yes.
This rate is a lot higher.
Yeah, you're right.
So either we're looking at the same location and we've got time varying rates of decay of or escape of gas, or we should be able to see the tube, right? It was pretty distinctive. We should be able to actually.
Right. That's what I'm suggesting, is that that's an easy way perhaps to tell if we're at the very same place or not.
Could be. And that might explain a lot, because we certainly see evidence for time varying dimensions of these plumes acoustically as we pass them multiple times. What's the tide? Oh, I have. You mean here at 1,400 meters? It's highly significant. You engineers. Engineers, you've always got an angle. I haven't figured.
The moon might be pulling the bubbles out.
The moon is more full than it was when we were here last time. I'm going to be seeing bubbles in my sleep when I get off this. The only bubbles I want to see are in beer when I get off this. And you can count on bubble escape trains in beer. The only time variance is when I drink it. Okay.
I think I was seeing bubbles in my sleep last night. That happens a lot. When staring at the same thing all
What's
day.
in the forward lounge in 5 minutes? Oh, operations. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
And where were all these bloody... Yeah, well, I think these broken blocks are a lot. Some of them are hydrate. I think that's
Some of them.
that block on the right.
So
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, you think that we imaged that
I-
brownish-looking thing earlier.
I'm not saying Dave is not exactly right. I think it's the same general area. The question is it the same exact event? I'm trying to find a stream that's voluminous enough so we can actually do some testing of methodology.
Well, that is the goal of all of this.
Right. Otherwise, I'm going to argue that we go back to Pascagoula and find a nice steady stream of bubbles. And well, it's beer can be highly punctuated. It depends on your mood. It can be nonlinear rates of highly nonlinear rates of.
He's referring to
streams.
Pascagoula Dome, Pascagoula,
Although if we could get a crew boat to make a
city
run,
in
I'd be
Mississippi.
glad to.
Yep.
Well, heck, I don't know.
Are we adjusting stereos for a closer look here? Is that what we're
That is the general idea.
Now, where did those bubbles go?
That's what I've lost them now.
I think we have to look at them from downslope again against the dark blue background of the water.
Yeah, the color of the sediment doesn't make isolating those bubbles easier. I think most of what we're seeing as rock outcrops there are probably hydrate. It's ice.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's orange or gray.
Certainly
but
all that
I think it's
orange
mostly.
stuff.
I think it's mostly hydrate. Therefore, the entire slope is unstable. Therefore, the plumbing is incessantly changing because the hydrate itself is exsolving as it touches seawater.
Certainly doesn't look very stable.
It's not.
The sediment would not indicate that
No, it's moving. It's moving, and as it moves, the plumbing changes, so the bubble stream rates change, and that's probably the real problem in the Gulf overall, is that You could model the seeps one year, and another year it might be different. The volume might not be very different. The plumbing would be different.
Well, that's why in the grand scheme of things, we want to sample enough places to kind of wash out some of the variability.
It's a huge job, though. I mean, that's just
Of course.
it's a job that requires
Certainly is.
decades of ship time. The Navy once asked me, I was doing some work for the Navy on the East Coast, and I think those were the two holes we were looking at earlier, right? I think Dave's right. I think those are.
The Smoky Cave.
I think you're exactly right. I think this is. I'm not sure whether we're looking at exactly the same release site, but this is the same play. It is 4. It's what we were calling 4.
I think that skid mark might have just been put there.
You know, gentlemen, I'm gonna make an executive call here and have us continue.
Okay.
Okay, we got about a half hour left. I want to finish getting down to that waypoint before we're done.
Well, you might be right, because we
2A.
sat down to image that cave, kind of.
I think that is SEEP 4. I think we've established that there is gas escape in the immediate vicinity. So let's, if we decide we're coming back here, we'll have time to do that. So let's keep going. Is that how you see yourself, as the as the sensei for this particular? That's the word I was looking for, sensei. I was having a hard time coming up with it. Yes, let's move towards 2A. We have a, let's see, 70. We got that right now. 30 meters or so to go. Let's keep search patterning down, and then once we get to that line between 2 and 3, I'll give you a final set of instructions. Not the final set, the next set. Some burrows, crab condos.
Yeah, even saw some crab legs sticking out of that one.
Yeah, well, I've seen a few crabs associated with those burrows on these dives. I think they are crab burrows. They look almost identical to the ones we see in the med. I don't know if the crab is the same, but the burrows look the same.
I saw a few of those burrowing anemones around here too. Well, there are only so many places to hide out here.
Right, exactly. You are down or you are out.
And I think that, besides there being a lot of food around seeps, that there, all that authogenic carbonate that's there just creates a more complex habitat structure for.
Sure. Sure. Cavernous porosity, nice ledges to hide under. Rooms with a view, if there was any light.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, it's probably a smaller version of the same thing we've seen in other parts of this dive, though. It's probably collapse related to underlying hydrate dissolution. Just a smaller version of the depressions we were looking at near waypoint 3. This whole area is pockmarked with that. Well, I think that may be biological. We've seen a couple of that. You know, they look like what was called whale resting traces in the med. Those things. Whale comes down, just sits for a while, then takes off. Similar water depth too, as we saw in the med. So it's proof that these guys come down pretty deep. Yeah, that's great what you're doing now. Just kind of, if you can move around in there until we're done, another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, it does seem to be kind of pockmark features. But we're at the end of our tether now.
Story of my life. Yeah, if we can get a look at the bottom of this, if you can get that far, it'd be great. But again, it's another one of these circular depressions, maybe a little hard ground around the edge. Nothing in the bottom. I'm good, gentlemen. Whenever you guys want to get ready to get off seafloor, I'm fine.
Hey, Jamie, I'm looking at our coverage map, and it's fantastic. I think we did exactly what we set out to do today, and it was just a wonderful dive. I think we learned quite a.
Good. Well, that was the idea, was to really try to saturate the area with visualization, and yeah, I think everybody did a good job. I think I have a sense of how complicated this problem is.
Roger that.
Beautifully, just like that. Just like that. You don't want to start hauling up until you see that arrangement for certain. Okay, sounds good. Are you ready, Jeff? No, ready, you ready? I'm ready. Let's do it. All right.
Very nice, gentlemen.
Here we go, coming up.